guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'll be doing a story time. Disclaimer, this is not my story. I found different story times on different platforms and some got sent to me. So let's get started.
My entire house when I was 8 years old. So basically we had so many candles in the house, I guess just because my mom was obsessed with candles. I was also obsessed with fire. So every time I seen the candle, I would put my finger in the fire. And no, it didn't hurt me whatsoever. I guess it was just amusing to me. And everybody called me a pyro. So one day I was scrolling on Musical.ly, and on the Feature Me page, I saw something with a candle. And it was like how to make your own candle or something like that. But you had to make your own candle out of a candle. So I went into my room and I closed my door. And the first step was melting the candle all the way. So I lit the candle and then I put a piece of paper in there. I don't know why I did, but I did. And the fire started getting so big, so I lifted the piece of paper and I threw it on my rug. And I didn't want to get in trouble for fire on the floor, so I just left my room and left it alone. And I kid you not, just a couple minutes later, I hear the smoke detector going off. And my older brother screaming. Part 2 of how I burned down my entire house at just 8 years old. So continuing on with the smoke alarms going off and my brother screaming, I knew exactly what I did. And I blamed it all on my brother. And to this day, they still think it's my brother. Even though it was in my room, but my family believed whatever I said. Anyways, the whole back side of the house was on fire, and we all rush out of the house. And of course, my mom takes care of it. I'm pretty sure she called 911. Well, duh. Sadly, our 2 cats, 2 bunnies, and 4 hamsters were in the house. And our bird, but our bird was getting ready to pass anyways. I'm not sure how, but the house caught on fire so quickly, and the entire thing just blew up into flames. There might have been something else that the fire triggered to make it more big, I guess. I don't really know how to word that. But we ended up raising enough money to move to a different house because we lost every single one of our belongings. When the house burned down, there was only one wall standing, and it was the wall of pictures of my grandma who passed 10 years ago.
This is a story of how I embarrassed myself in front of my entire class. So it was 7th grade math class, and honestly, when I was in middle school, that was definitely my awkward stage. I was just really weird. I always said the wrong thing. And I was always just embarrassing myself in front of people. One day, we were going over all these drills, lockdowns, fire drills, all that. And my teacher had a list of questions that we all had to answer, and she was the type of teacher that would just call on you randomly whether you were paying attention or not. And back then, we weren't even allowed to have phones, so I was just completely zoned out because of my ADHD, and the teacher decides to call on me after she had asked this question. If you're in the bathroom by yourself and an intruder comes in and says, "Is anybody in here?" what do you say? Then she calls on me, and I don't know why, but the first thing in my head was to say that you say no. And right away, my teacher looked at me like I was an idiot and started crying, laughing with the entire class. I was mortified.
So when I was a sophomore in high school, I had this teacher who would only let the students in her class use the restroom one time per semester. Well, one day I raised my hand and I was like, "Excuse me," I don't remember her name, "can I please use the restroom?" And she was like, "No, you can't, because you've already used the restroom in my class this semester." Well, excuse me, you can't dictate my bladder. So I'm all frustrated, and I started secretly texting my mom because I wasn't allowed to use my phone in class. And I was like, "Mom, I'm sitting in class right now. My teacher won't let me use the restroom." And she was like, "I'll take care of it for you." And I was like, "Okay." So 5 minutes goes by, and all of a sudden my teacher's phone starts ringing, and she walks up to it and answers it, and she's like, "Hello?" "Yeah. Okay, thank you." And then she walks up to me so angry, and she slams the pass on my desk, and she was like, "Since you have to go that bad." And I was like, "Yeah, I really do, thanks." And I got up and left. I didn't even have to go to the bathroom. It was just the principle of it. I just roamed the halls.
Story time. 23 years ago, there was this mother of 2 children who just recently had a 3rd child. Soon after, the newborn baby was sleeping in the nursery while they were throwing a house party, and unfortunately, during the party, the house caught on fire. Everyone scrambles out of the house and they couldn't get to the baby, and then the cops concluded that the baby had died in the fire. But her other 2 kids made it out alive. And even though the cops told her that her baby had died, she refused to believe it. Many years later, the mother took her 2 children to a birthday party, and there was this other woman there with her child. child. And now the mother looks at that child and is in shock because she looks so much like her other two kids. She goes up to the little girl and says that she has bubble gum in her hair so that she can steal a few strands of her hair. She took it to a lab and they DNA tested it, and that little girl was her child. So it turns out many years ago during that house party, a woman that the mother knew went upstairs, took the baby, and started the fire so that the baby would be declared as dead and she could easily get away with kidnapping her. And then she ran from the cops and they can't find her.
Time. So yesterday my friends and I all went to the fair, and there were 6 of us in total. And none of us wanted to have to worry about driving there and parking, so we just Ubered instead. So we left the fair around 11:15 and we walked to a nearby shopping center where the Uber picked us up about 10 minutes late. We ended up leaving at 11:30. We get in the Uber, the man says hello, and we head home the normal way. Everything's fine. And my parents don't like when I Uber, so they were tracking me on Life 360 from the moment I got in the car. After about 10 minutes in, I get a text from my mom, and it said, "Where are you?" I look up from my phone and I realize I have no idea where we are, and Ubers know their directions, they know how to take you home. We were 20 minutes out of the way. So I'm terrified. My mom's texting me nonstop, literally about to call the police. I'm gonna run out of time, but posting part 2 today. Okay, back to the Uber story. Our parents are freaking out, we're texting each other in our group chat so he doesn't hear us. Also, while this was all happening, he wasn't talking to us, but he had an earbud in, and he was talking to someone on the phone really quietly. It was super creepy. My mom starts calling me again, and he hears the ring. And one of my friends pulled up on her phone the directions to get home, which he also heard, so he knew that we thought something was off. After a little while longer, we finally know where we are, so we feel a little bit better. We were getting really close to the turn that goes into my friend's neighborhood, and we were thinking, if he doesn't make this turn, we're screwed. Thank goodness he makes a turn and we're back at my friend's house. But the scary thing is what if he was planning something, but since our phones were ringing and we had the GPS up, that he changed his mind? Because we were not going home. I still can't stop thinking about it. This is
Roblox. I met this guy on Roblox, and his name was Jimmy X Bear. He asked if we could be friends on Roblox, and I said sure. I wasn't sus of him until a week later when he'd asked me to join his game, and I said sure. So I joined his game. He started then telling me that I was gonna get hacked, and that I should stay off Roblox. I was completely confused. I didn't know what to say, so I just left the game. After a week or so, I went back on because of how scared I was, and I was logged out of my account. And now I didn't know what to do. So I went to go log into my account. After 20 or so tries, I finally got back in. I looked to go in my Roblox chats and saw Jimmy X Bear. You won't believe what he said next. Come back for part 2. Part 2 of what Jimmy X Bear said next. I went to go look in my Roblox chats and I got a chat from Jimmy X Bear. He said, "Your account is now mine." I was speechless. Right away, I unfriended him and contacted my parents and my friends. None of my friends would believe me, so I said to go on ALT accounts and join his group. I'll pretend that we were a Roblox group of friends and we wanted to be his friend. So for days of playing with him and acting like we liked him, my friends' main accounts got hacked. Now at this point, I didn't know what to say. I thought it was kind of my fault, so I knew I had to do something. I did next friended him again. And I chatted him back and asked, "What are you trying to do to me?" Stay tuned for part 3. So part 3 on Jimmy X Bear. He decided to tell me the truth of what he was trying to do. He told me that he was trying to get my family, especially my number. He wanted to come to my house. After he said that, I immediately unfriended him and never played Roblox again. At least for like 2 weeks, because I was terrified. I told my parents the story, and they told me I was not allowed in Roblox. At least for a month or 2. I did get random texts and random calls from this number. All I did was block. And yeah, that's basically...
Me and my best friend were kind of just like swiping through Tinder for fun. And then she came across this really, really hot dude. So of course, she swiped right and they talked all night long. And he said he had an Android so he couldn't FaceTime, but his messages were blue, so I thought something was off. She was too blinded to see that something was up in the first place because she was messaging with a really hot guy. So about a week of them just like texting back and forth and I guess getting to know each other, they decided that they were going to meet up. So they both decided that they were going to meet up at an Olive Garden near them. And you see, as her best friend, of course, I'm going to have to go with her. So I got dressed up and I sat about 5 tables away from her. And we got there about 30 minutes earlier than we were supposed to be there. Okay, so my best friend had 3 bowls of fettuccine alfredo before he got there. So when he got there, it wouldn't look like she ate a lot. Then I see my dad walk in, all dressed up and fancy with a bow tie and everything. This story time just gets so much more funnier, so like for a part 2. Part 2 of how my best friend was catfished by my dad. Continuing with the story, I see my dad walk into the restaurant all dressed up. Mind you, my dad's married. To my mother, of course. So I was like, ooh, my dad and my mom are finally going on a date together. And then he looks over to my best friend and walks over to the table. When I tell you my heart dropped, my heart has never sank so deep inside me so fast. He sits down and asks her, is this Mackenzie? When I tell you I busted out laughing so freaking hard I fell out of my chair. And almost everybody in the restaurant turned around and looked at me, and so did my dad. And I walk over to the table and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? My best friend is literally just sitting there in shock, no emotion on her face. Then he looks at us, he looks really confused, his face goes blank, and then he goes, I was just trying to teach y'all girls a lesson. I told my mom and I was just getting a laugh out of it, and then she looked through his phone and said that he was meeting up with a bunch of 14-year-old girls. So comes to find out, my dad is a pedophile.
A birthday. Okay, y'all, so today's story is my own. All right, y'all, let's get into it. Okay, so boom. About 2 years ago in 2019, I lived by myself in my own apartment. At this time, I was at the end of my lease and I was actually moving to another apartment. I had to do everything by myself because I had nobody to help me, so I had to go get a U-Haul truck. This was my first time using Uber because I have my own car. But to get to U-Haul, I had to Uber over there so I could get the truck and then go from apartment to apartment. My first Uber driver bringing me to the U-Haul truck was fine. I had no issues with him and it was pretty normal and fast. So once I was done with the U-Haul truck and I was done moving, I had to return the truck to its location. And then I had to Uber back to my apartment where my car was. Now this second Uber driver, this is where the issue comes in. Y'all, it was literally crazy. My life was at stake. Like I said, I returned my U-Haul truck and I waited for my Uber driver to come pick me up. When my Uber driver came to pick me up, right from the beginning, I knew something was off about him. Always trust your instincts. He was a little weird and off, but I told myself that it's only a 10-minute drive and it will be over soon. So I sat on the back of the car and I just stayed on my phone. You know, minding my business. And then the guy just started talking to me, like I guess he was trying to have small talk. But the weird thing is I couldn't understand what he was saying. And I got footage, you guys. Listen to this. Yeah, I didn't know what he was saying, but I just thought he wanted to do small talk. So I just was like, oh yeah, yeah, oh, ooh, ah. But then all of a sudden he went off the path of my route. I was like, excuse me, you took the wrong turn. Then he turned back and looked at me and said, I think we're going exactly where we need to be. It gets worse. Okay, so boom, like I said, he went off the path of my route. And I said, excuse me, you made the wrong turn. Then he turned around and looked at me and said, I think we're going exactly where we need to be. I still didn't get it and I looked confused and I was just like, just drop me off at this gas station here. And child, he locked the door. At that moment, my heart sank and I knew exactly what was going on. I was being kidnapped on my birthday. He locked all the doors and put child lock so I wouldn't be able to unlock and leave either. I was under pressure, but I knew I had to think fast and get out of this situation. Y'all, he was driving fast, but thank God he wasn't on a highway, so there was red lights. And I live in Miami, so traffic hour is real. I knew that once he stopped at a red light, that would be my only chance to get the hell out this car. So here we go. We stopped at the red light and I took his head and bashed it into his steering wheel. He didn't see it coming, so I did it pretty easy. Running out of time. Okay, so boom, like I said, he stopped at a red light and I took his head and started bashing it into the wheel. He didn't see it coming, so that's why I was able to overpower him at that moment. As I was bashing his head, I knew that his door was the only way I was able to get out because of the child lock. As I bashed his head, I unlocked the door and I literally sling my whole body to the front of the car and I was literally on top of him. Unlocked the door, opened it, and I just jumped out. He held on to one of my legs, so I ended up falling on the floor on the street. But at this point, everyone was looking and someone was coming to my rescue, so he just closed his door and locked it. And as soon as the light turned green, he bolted. I was bruised all over, like my arm, but mostly my knees. I went inside the gas station and I waited for my friend to come pick me up. Y'all, all this on my birthday.
Hope you liked the video, guys. Subscribe if you want to. Bye!